Hello, welcome to the Future of Resourcing. This is brought to you by HRTN and Annapurna HR. I'm Dee Dee Doak, editor of Recruiter Magazine and recruiter.co.uk. In this episode, we are speaking with one of the giants in resourcing, Paul Maxin, most recently head of global resourcing at Unilever. Today, we are going to be talking about one of these new catchphrases that you may have heard, but it's certainly a reality that we are living with. If you are not aware, we are living in a VUCA world. That's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And Paul is going to talk with us about the issues of living in a VUCA world and as they relate to resourcing.
The world has changed more in the last 10 years than in the previous 50. So as you said, a VUCA world is volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous. In some ways that can describe large global organizations too. Trust in corporate organizations and governments is lower than it ever has been. We've overgeared the sustainability and the goods within the Western world. Businesses go where people and money is, and that tends to be to emerging markets, so south and east. Well, it's aligned with VUCA. Unilever operates in a world, as many other organisations do, where it's anticipated that food consumption will increase by 30% by 2030. Water consumption will increase by 15% by 2030. That has an impact on the purpose of an organisation. If an organisation wants to grow, it has to grow where we only have one planet rather than the 3 planets that we'll need if consumption continues at the levels of the developed markets. Although the emerging markets will take a lot of people out of poverty, it will also increase challenges on sustainability. And that's why it's important for organisations to have a moral purpose and impact in everything they do. So Unilever, for instance, has a sustainable living plan that wants to do 3 things by 2020. That's to better the lives of 1 billion people, source all of its agricultural products sustainably by 2020, and halve its environmental impact. And that's the environmental impact from beginning to end of the value chain. And these are all things that affect talent acquisition, because these are the questions that we should be asking ourselves. Looking south and east, does our talent brand, does our employment brand have equal effect in Asia and Africa as it does in Western Europe or indeed North America or Latin America? But an employment brand clearly needs to reflect, wherever you are, the impact it has on the potential talent, not only that you want to recruit, but it also needs to be authentic and impactful when anyone's joined an organisation as well. If you have a consistent brand narrative, you can tell brand and employment brand stories that are reflective of what's real in China or what's real in Japan, as well as what's real in South Africa, in the United Kingdom or North America, all of which might be different. But within that common framework, freedom within the framework and common narrative, is to conduct your research with younger people. Okay? The leaders of today may well not be the leaders in 5 years' time. Many of them will have retired out or they'll be working differently. So in conducting the research at Unilever, and I would say this with other organisations as well, it's you look at your relationships with organisations such as ISEC or Enactus or One Young World, global organisations which are supported and have the throughput of tomorrow's leaders, and tomorrow's leaders are young people. What's their vision of the future in terms of how people will act, interact, organisations should behave and their expectations, and at all times looking at what those outcomes would be and what the desired outcome is. I think for the resourcing profession it's immensely exciting times. There isn't a single model or a one-size-fits-all, whether that's from an agency or a consulting world, an RPO, or the building of in-house teams. Because different approaches are appropriate and work for different organisations depending on what the strategic objectives are. But in a VUCA world, recognizing what the future of talent should look like, or will look like, and where the future of talent is, then it's ever more important for resourcing to develop as a profession, to work ever more closely with the strategic needs of the business. What I've said before is that a resourcing organization and resources and talent acquisition, talent attraction, and talent management specialists need to align themselves, and will ever align themselves and be closer to the strategic objectives and the strategic priorities of business, of the businesses that they support. And ultimately, that's not just about saving money or ensuring that there's process adherence or process measurement, but it's ensuring that the outcomes of the recruiting and resourcing profession are exactly the same as the desired outcomes of the business. And I think the future of resourcing is really exciting, because that will ultimately mean that you will have heads of resourcing or people that are specialists in resourcing at the top table, informing and working with business leaders, and ultimately will become business leaders, because it will inform ultimately what strategic business decisions can be made. So if you look at the size of addressable markets and the impact that perhaps big data can have on that, well, it'll be the resourcing leaders and the resourcing specialists that could recognize that, partnering with the business, and ultimately that could make really lead to businesses making really detailed and informed decisions on where they might want to make some strategic investments, or what locations they might want to make strategic investments in. So resourcing will become ever more strategic to the business, and the business will need resourcing to enable them to achieve the outcomes they want to do. And I think that's really exciting.